If you go to Germany or where the sub school was, there's a big U-boat, and you look off to the corner, and on the side there's like this great big building that looks kind of like the top of a sub, pretty much. And I forget, and I don't know what it's used for now, but it's a really obvious building. It has a slope back and it kind of goes up, and then it's like 10 stories or 20 stories or something, and then it's like this flat side on the front, and that used to be the Germany sub school, I believe. It's somewhere in Germany or somewhere, or by Germany. It's by the shore actually, and there used to be a whole bunch of sub pens out front, and there's pictures of it. And then there was this big school, and it had like a sub thingy, and there used to be like a training base and stuff like that. And if you wanted to be a military officer in Germany, you would first learn hand-to-hand combat and other maneuvers. And men and women would learn this too. It was a male-female operation where there was male and females on board submarines. I always had men and women on my submarines. I liked it better that way. I mean, yeah, sure they had sex, but whatever. I don't care. I was in it for the service, basically. They were protecting people. So basically, and then depends. I think males did more of a physical role, and females did more of a what's it called? More of a technical role, like plotting and stuff like that. Women are always better and always smarter anyway. So anyway, communications officers would usually be women, but they could be men too. It depends on if you showed aptitude for it. So the way it was there was three types of subs that the school had. They had a really low tech, and then they had a medium tech, and then they had a little bit higher of a tech, basically. Submarines. They're basically my old submarines, and they would run for quite a while without what's called, and I would pay for the fuel and everything else like that, and people could join, civilians could join, and do it, but they always dropped out because it was really expensive, basically. And very few actually stayed in the submarine career. Anyway, if you joined up with the military or whatever service, you would go through all three sets, and it would take about 3 years to go through all three sets or so, or close. I think 6 months or something like that, because we took a break for a school break, I think, or something like that, because training, you can't always just be training, so there'd be breaks and everything else like that. And part of that was this little building off to the corner where the Enigma was taught, or communication was taught, basically. And you learn everything that there was about codes and communication. And I think that was like a 3-year class or a 2-year class or something, or 6 month. It was a long class, basically. And it came in 3 phases, basically. And pretty much what you do is you do some maneuvers out in the water, and then you'd go back and learn. And then you'd do some maneuvers out in the water, and then you'd come back and learn. Basically, like you go for a 90-day cruise, and then come back, and then do some more school. So it's both on base and in sub, basically learning. And after about 3 years, you would graduate to another submarine, which is still not that high tech. I forget, it wasn't quite nuclear yet. It was, I think there was one more test after all that. So basically, it's like a 4 or 5 year program or something like that. And John McCain and all the others who didn't really want to go to school or want to spend that much time, nor had that much money, were basically always trying to talk to the top cadets because they're graduating to their first real submarine, and so they would want to know what was in that other submarine, and they would kind of tell, and they'd be so proud, and they would talk about it because they wanted to know what the last year cadet was, or the end thing, thinking that all those submarines were all I had. And I actually had 5 classes of subs. There was the 3 classes at the sub school, and then there was one more that was slightly more high tech than that. Basically, as the subs got older, I just moved them down. So basically, it was always those 5 classes pretty much, and pretty much the ones in the sub school were actually all civilian use, but no one knew that. But they were kind of military, but not really. Then there was one more sub after that, and if you did tours with that one, then you graduated to the real submarine, which is a full-on nuclear submarine, and you're in the big game now. You finally have graduated to the highest, to the higher level, and this is what we really have. Everything else is all history. Now, John McCain didn't know that. Nobody knew that. Anyway, and then after that submarine, after the fourth class of submarine, you would then go to the higher class of submarine. So there was a fifth level. And basically, as I built newer and better submarines, I'd move them down a little bit to a point. Now, John McCain, Richard Nixon, and a bunch of other people had no idea. They thought that the third sub at the sub school was all there was. So they talked to last year's cadet submarine, and then they used the private submarines to try and grab one of those submarines, getting the Enigma machine onto a civilian use. What they didn't really know is that I'd already gone to the higher end subs had already gone to the digital system. Of course, that's 5th and 6th year submarine. So you'd have to do military service for 6 whole years to finally get to that level. And even after that, there was still 2 more levels after that. And that was all back between 1700 and 1900. So, anyway, and everything that John McCain and Richard Nixon and all the other ones did was always top secret, matter of national security. Well, they were raping people and killing people indiscriminately. Like they hit that ferry boat with the Japanese and killed those 6,000 children. And that was a matter of national security and utmost whatever. Truth was, they just didn't want the world to know that they were vicious psycho murderers that killed 6,000 children. Meanwhile, they're trying to sue me and sue everything else. And trying to do this whole thing. They had purposely killed 6,000 children on a ferry boat. They sunk it on purpose. That was those people on TV. The alligator crew. The bulldog crew. I mean, they hijacked those ships or were actually civilians. They weren't military. If they were military, they would have known about the Enigma machine and the fact that it had actually been in use since like 1800 or 1700. But they just wanted to just power their way in and didn't know anything about anything. So then they go on TV saying that, oh yeah, we just got the Enigma machine in 1930 or 1920. They actually probably got it around 1910, and even then it was old then. So that's why I was letting it out so much, because it was like, well, it's already out there. So I mean, I've already had it for like 50 years. Might as well. I mean, it was old hat, as they say. So we'd already gone to the digital, as technology improved, we had already gone to the digital revolution and the digital stuff. But that was high-end and very expensive. Anyway. So, but Kennedy and Nixon and all the others, they didn't really exactly know that. They were just messing around with what is basically old civilian stuff. Anyway, though. So, well... But yeah, and then they go on TV and say, "Oh yeah, it was new." Blah, blah. They didn't even know really when it came out or who invented it really, and they killed everyone that did know about it. So I think, not exactly sure, but I mean it was 150 years old by the time. I mean, it came out in like 1700 or 1800, so very old by. It's just that the civilians weren't supposed to have it. And that's what was different about it. The civilians weren't supposed to have it. But anyway, they started using it. But I mean, eventually we figured it out, of course. And anyway, yeah. So. But they were they're young 15-year-old kids at the time. And they didn't know anything about anything. So, yeah. Oh, well. Anyway, and then they go TV and say, "Oh yeah, we got that Enigma machine from those Germans. Yeah, finally, yeah." It's like we had it for hundreds of years beforehand. Just they decided to try and steal it rather than actually earning it or inventing it. So.